Well, hello there. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Doggo333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, The New Order, The Ruin, as the United Kingdom. Now, in the last video, the Resistance had fallen, and we stand as the victors over a ruined German. Oh my god, is that why it's called The Ruin? I get it now. But yeah. We crushed the Resistance in Scotland, literally like in the last couple seconds of our last video. And now we have the factionalism popping back up. And I made sure to use our political power a little bit more. We talk to the peers. Oops. Also do this one real quick. Anything to get a little extra influence. Already lost stability. There we go. And this is all maxed out. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, that's gonna... I'm gonna miscalculate that a little bit. Actually, I can just wait, at least in theory. Keep the chaos from going up. The old clouds above London streets startled it to move westward. The rain turned its face away to the bright sun on the face of Reginald Malding and the people. What a beautiful day, hmm? 3 knocks came ringing at the door. His parliamentary private office, and Postmaster General Frederick Bennett opened the door. Good morning, sir. I've got some news for you from the Prime Minister himself, more specifically about your staffing. And I placed a file on Malding's desk, with all 6 sections stuffed with high-level documents. Most of the files in the file don't contain the staffing issue I'd mentioned before. The majority of the contents being particular charts and sheets you'd typically receive. The first document in the 3rd section should be the file about your staff. Malding combed his finger through the file's contents, skimming through the document that Bennett was talking about. He did not find an issue, but a new opportunity. He should have told me earlier that Oliver was appointed as Deputy Finance Manager at Volkswagen. This is a great opportunity for him, and I'm truly happy for his family. This will serve the company spectacularly. Bennett held the knob to the door. So that is great to hear. I am right in the understanding that no action should be taken to replace his position here? Malding shook his head in agreement. Bennett would shake his head as well, shutting the door to Malding's office. Although the world that left Malding before weren't inaccurate to his feelings, they're not what his focus had been on. Now with an ally within the German business hierarchy, new deals will be made, new chances can be taken, and new routes have opened up. When the sun never sets, each day is a new day. Actually, we can wait a couple days to get at least some of these to tick over. Because once we select the focus and do that, chaos can go over 60%. And I want to prevent that as much as we can. Now, we'll get 10 days stored up. And the new focus will take... I need to actually click this. Hold on. Something happening in Romania. The old guard is now set to take control. These Bolsheviks are infiltrating Finland. Shake my head. Anium. Now let's go ahead and make sure order prevails. Though beset on all sides, abandoned by those we have trusted, and outnumbered 2-1, we have emerged victorious from this dreadful crisis. Britain lays scared, its cities in partial rumble, its countryside scorched, and its people in misery. Yet we have survived. With this victory comes order. With order comes peace. It will be a long time before we fully recover from this tragedy, but we can rest easy knowing the right people have emerged victorious. God save the king. And that actually sets our political power to 100, so we actually gain a little bit from that. Beautiful. When Philby handed him a report confirming the surrender of the last known resistance holdout, Noel Kane felt his body lighten from its burdens. Night was done for. Jones and McLean were soon to join him. Half of resistance was dead or captured. The rest had scattered, broken so badly that the thought of another uprising in the next 3 decades was now a blissful impossibility. England prevailed. Noel Kane handed the report back to Philby. Thank Christ they're done. An impromptu celebration started at number 10. Civil servants broke out the brandy and special advisors laughed alongside military officers. Noel Kane gave a speech praising the loyal sons and daughters of England for putting down the rabble. He noted that there were some staff who kept their heads down into their work during the party, and a few were outright absent. Citing illness, they had gone early. Noel Kane made sure that Philby recorded their names. As the celebration continued, Noel Kane felt weighed down by the fatigue. He excused himself and sat down on the terrace. He felt his age. He felt it more than most men, sand in the joints, lead in the bones. Had the uprising taken that much out of him? Perhaps an early retirement was not such a bad idea. From Knoydart, he could relax in his final years with his legacy solidified. He would be the man who kept England together, and he would not need to suffer leading its rebuilding. A burst of nervous energy quickly shuddered Noel Kane's body. No, he would not be allowed to get away that quickly. There would be a successor, but he would need to keep the country from collapsing until then. He, like England, needed to soldier on, but not just yet. Noel Kane rose up from his seat, ready to rejoin the party. They had won only minutes ago, and there was plenty of time to celebrate. Noel Kane stepped back inside number 10, setting aside the weights for tonight. The resolute king, the mighty lord, casts the proud fiend from his seat. There we go. Just gotta make sure we don't get up to 95%. We're gonna get all the stuff at a reduced chaos coming up, which is gonna be good. Anyway. Let us go ahead. Let's start routing the rats, excuse me. Though the war is over, the head of the traitors' resistance has been killed or captured. Unrest still plagues the land. Some disorganized but dangerous cells of former resistance movements still hold out, foolishly believing that they can somehow stand victorious. They continue to launch raids and fight against the brave soldiers attempting to restore order to their sacred land. We need to end this disorder, and fast. Let us double our efforts to mop up any sides of resistance remaining. We were far too lenient 20 years ago, and almost cost Britain everything. We shall not make the same mistake again. Well, I had a bowl of cereal in between recording sessions. And no, it's not early. It's almost 10 p.m. I don't know. I just felt like cereal today. Also, holy shit, we are not doing well economically. But our credit rating might increase. It's not great to begin with. I think it was higher before. It certainly is not. Let's do military austerity. Let's cut down expenditures on the army. We don't. We can have a little bit of money creation. Keep some GDP growth going. If I cut a little bit of social stuff. I mean, That'll help us, but we're also... just not making any money. Like, we're not having any growth because of our inflation. Alright, let me see if I can do anything. Okay, we have a bit of a surplus. We could do civilian austerity. I'd rather we didn't, though. Let's hold tight for a little bit. Keep getting a surplus. And then... shit. Okay, we should probably... make sure at least we have some growth going. Got a bit of a deficit, but what are you going to do? And, well, the RK is hanging strong out over here. They've even picked up extra territory. When Jared Wallops had stood atop the west cliff of Whitby with his colleagues in the English ministry 30 years ago, William Sanderson had proudly remarked that this town was all England should be. As he stood there again, alone but for his bodyguards, he wondered what their founder would think were he still alive to see it now. Its streets, once busy and full of laughter, had nearly no people walking them now. Buildings lay in disrepair, with collapsed roofs and holes visible even from his high vantage point. The Earl was no stranger to devastation. The horrors he'd witnessed in the fields of Verdun and Neuchâtel would remain with him forever. To see it inflicted on England's green beauty, though, disturbed him more than he could say. This is why you fight, he reminded himself. He could not simply sit by and watch as the Jew and the Socialist tore nations apart to their very soil, time and time again. At times, it seemed the struggle seemed futile, and yet it was a struggle worth fighting. Sir, shall I inform the mayor you'll be delayed? Asked a bodyguard. Walt waved a hand dismissively. No, indeed. Wait by the car for now. The bodyguard nodded, leaving him to his thoughts in the barren view. Not entirely barren, though, mused Walt. Far down below, near the docks, a few fishermen were still preparing their boats, loading rods, fuel drums, and satchels. Come what may, men of English character gathered up their tools and got to work. And now that the parasites dipped their hands too early with the uprising, England's people would be free to. All they would need was a stern guiding hand in Downing Street. When his colleagues had suggested the thought 30 years ago, he'd snorted bitterly, dismissing it as an impossibility. But now it was nearly within his grasp. All he needed was to reach out and take it. He turned his back to the town, making his way to the car. Let's be off. I've seen what I needed to see. Panay elected as Prime Minister of France. That reminds us, we have some new descriptions. No, we have military austerity, right? We have Britain's economic ruin. The chaos and bloodshed that had gripped Britain over the past few months had finally come to a close. The people of Britain can finally go home safely. However, the people cannot go back home safely in the current state of the economy. For us, a large percentage of tax base has been killed during the uprising. For the people, the majority of our infrastructure has been shelled into rubble. No matter the cost or time, Britain must be built back up, one brick at a time. It was like a fractured food supply. Every society's free meals away from chaos. It's an old adage that we should do well to remember in these trying times. Following the almost universal disruption of our supply lines and the uprising, we are left with a nation that teeters on the precipice of famine. We must work diligently to restore our supply chains and ensure that our people do not starve, lest we once more risk plunging ourselves into anarchy. Well, the roaring of engines filled the street just outside the pub. As columns of soldiers moved through the city, rolling in with little resistance, Roy Kemp gripped his pistol tightly, his heart racing as he sat in the warm, brick-covered basement of the pub, surrounded by his compatriots, his friends. Many he had fought fought with for so long, who had seen each other fall in the struggle for freedom. They fought through sweat and tears and shed blood for the rights of the workers and the common man against the fascist pigs who bowed down to their overlords in Berlin. Now it all seemed pointless. What the hell do we do now? Roy asked those nearest to him. All standing around a large table, some dust fell from the ceiling when another large truck rolled past. Everyone's on the run. We're out of hideouts. We're out of bases to walk from. We've no place to go. We're fucking dead is what we are. If I'm dead, then I'll take as many of those bootlickers with me as I can. Anderson, a stout fellow who had spent most of the war as an artilleryman, loaded up his own pistol. He looked at the others. Who else is with me? Most of the others not in agreement, grumbling about killing as many of the Nazis as they had bullets. Roy wondered if they felt the pounding of their hearts in their chests like he did in his, as he readied his own pistol. Me too, he said. He may have been terrified of death, but he wouldn't be caught dead as a coward. Let's move into the tables and defensive positions. Place the chairs here, and, I think. Roy began pointing, and soon the group of rebels were setting up barricades for cover when the government forces eventually came rushing in. Just as they finished putting the last table in place, the door upstairs was thrown off its hinges as one of the boots of the fascist dogs slammed into the wood and broke it. Soldier after soldier, armed with a rifle, stormed into the basement. The rebels were ready, firing shots into any who came too far down the stairs. The bodies piled up on the last steps, but so did those behind the barricades. Roy only had a few more minutes left of his life, but he'd go down as he lived. Rebel resistance is snuffed out, street by street. Go into the fields as well. Let's face it, even before the war, we were barely producing enough food to feed ourselves, and though the devastation that the war has brought upon us, we are starting to have to make many tough decisions in regards to how we will feed our people. Now that many farmers have had their crops crushed by tank treads, we find ourselves in a dangerously close situation, or dangerously close to national starvation, sorry. This cannot be allowed to happen. It would be a humanitarian disaster. We will send men into the fields, and by God, we will not let our people starve. So, trinket subsidies. If that boosts our employment policy, that'll actually help us there a little bit. I'm okay with that. Slowly improve our poverty. Not a sound could be heard in the rebel encampment, save the scant crackling of the fire. It was struggling to stay alight, given the dampness of the wood it was built upon. Emma and Elizabeth kept their vigil over old Bill, who'd been caught by a stray gunshot. He had tried to insist that they leave him behind, but they weren't about to let that happen. Not after they lost Madge and Harry last week. Their cell shrank by the day. It was just them, Bill, Bobby, and Tom left now. The collaborators had pushed them all the way back into the woods. But they kept fighting. It wasn't as if there was much else to do. "Do you think they followed us here?" Emma asked, to nobody in particular. "We went as quick as usual. They could have been lying in wait." "We've no way of knowing," Elizabeth said, squeezing her hand. "But I certainly hope not." Emma looked over at her partner, seeing tears rolling gently onto her cheeks. She said nothing, only squeezing her hand back, silently comforting her. They both knew exactly what they were terrified of most, and how real that fear was. Suddenly, a gunshot in the distance broke the silence. Elizabeth's head whipped in that direction. "Shit," she whispered, letting go of Emma's hand and running off into the darkness. Emma's eyes widened before she ran after her partner. As they ran, she silently prayed that everything would end well. Well, this isn't a fairy tale. So, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there, my friends, but thank you as always for watching. Like this video if you liked, dislike if you didn't, leaving comments for feedback down in the comment section below. I read all the comments again, and I appreciate any feedback you might have for me. Check out my various links down in the description box below. the sub button for the notification bell if you want to keep updated with all these uploads. And yeah, that is it for now, my friends. I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye now.